Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this. Today, we're doing a full explainer on Diego the puppet. We're essentially acting as archivists today, cracking open what is easily one of the most highly entertaining, totally bizarre, and frankly unforgettable case studies from the jackal juice mutation wave. Honestly, this file reads way less like your standard criminal record and a whole lot more like some kind of international fever dream. So I want you to ask yourself a question right off the bat. What actually happens when a completely mundane, slightly chaotic civilian life collides head-on with an absolute super-powered nightmare? I mean, we usually think of supervillains as these calculating masterminds or ancient gods, right? But the truth is, sometimes the most unpredictable threats come from the absolute most unassuming places. And as you'll see, we're about to watch a normal worker transform into a literal walking anomaly. Setting the stage here with Section 1, the jackal juice phenomenon.
Now, before we actually meet our subject, you really need to understand the catalyst for all this. Jackal's juice. The streets of Caldwell City were recently just flooded with this extraterrestrial-derived mutagen. It's basically a poison that violently rewrites a person's DNA. But here's the really crucial point. It doesn't just hand out random abilities. No, it grants these bizarre, highly specific powers that somehow directly reflect the drinker's inner desires, their quirky personality traits, or their deepest insecurities. Just take a good look at the result of one of these mutations, the entity known as Diego the puppet. We really need to anchor ourselves visually right here because this is exactly the kind of living wooden anomaly we are dealing with. I mean, look at it. A carved wooden face, bold red and white painted patterns, stringy black hair, and those empty eye sockets that somehow, impossibly, still manage to show expression. It's jarring, it's super creepy, and it is 100% real in this universe.
Let's dig into who this actually is in Section 2. Meet Diego Hernandez. Because before he was this wooden menace causing absolute chaos, we need to examine his incredibly, almost painfully average background. Who was the guy behind the paint and the wood? Well, his name was Diego Hernandez. He was a quiet, fairly crafty fast food worker. In his spare time, he was a massive rock collector who ran a little stall selling corn at Mexican flea markets. Sounds perfectly ordinary, right? Well, mostly. He did have this slightly chaotic civilian habit of just forcing kisses on random men against their will. So, even before this alien mutant entered his system, there was already a distinctly unhinged, deeply theatrical element to his personality just waiting to be unleashed. Which brings us to Section 3, the wooden transformation. So, when the jackal juice wave swept through Caldwell, most people completely panicked. But Diego literally saw this as his big break. On the left side here, we have the original Diego Hernandez, your average human fast food worker. But as he famously stated at the time, "I've always wanted dope powers, now I will have some." He drank the juice and, well, the result is over on the right. The guy physically shrank down to roughly 3 feet tall. His entire anatomical structure converted to living wood, complete with visible jointed seams at his elbows, knees, and waist, exactly like a marionette. He even spontaneously manifested wearing traditional Native American-inspired clothing, like real leather, beads, fringe, and a feathered headdress that actually moves on its own. Moving on to Section 4, Puppet Master's powers. Okay, so what can a 3-foot-tall wooden doll actually do? Make no mistake, he is absolutely not just a decorative statue. He possesses some truly bizarre new abilities that really highlight the sheer absurdity of his existence. Not only is his whole body made of living wood, but he has total anatomical control over it in ways that just completely defy physics. He can freely detach and reattach his limbs whenever he wants. He can stretch out those wooden joints at will. And living up to his namesake, he possesses this wild form of telekinesis that lets him control other wooden objects around him, literally like a puppet master. Plus, he speaks in this high-pitched, creaky little voice, just roaming through the city as this tiny juggernaut of chaos. Let's see this in action in Section 5, the toy store heist. I mean, how does someone even use such majestic, logic-defying powers? Let's take a look at his very first documented crime. Captain Tougharm, who is the premier hero of this universe, responded to a robbery in progress. The target? An adult sex toy store. The accomplices? Now, it wasn't street thugs or henchmen, no, it was dozens of animated, vibrating toys. Captain Tougharm literally arrived to find this 3-foot-tall wooden puppet standing proudly on the counter, arms outstretched like a maestro, conducting an entire army of adult toys that were vibrating right out the front door carrying stolen goods. You literally cannot make this stuff up. And when confronted by the hero, our subject didn't cower. Not at all. Instead, we get this massive, instantly iconic quote. He looked right at Captain Tougharm and squeaked out in his raspy little voice, "I am Little Chief Woodenface now, but you can call me Diego the motherfucking puppet." He just leans so heavily into this unhinged theatrical persona. It perfectly blends the mundane frustrations of his past life with the godlike absurdity of his brand new one. The ensuing confrontation showcases exactly how frustratingly resilient Diego is in combat. It goes a little something like this. Step 1. Diego directs his animated toy army to physically attack the hero. Step 2. When that inevitably fails, he simply snaps his wooden fingers and his own detachable arm flies right off his body, wrapping tightly around Captain Tougharm's leg to drag him down. Step 3. When the incredibly strong hero rips that arm off and tosses it back, Diego doesn't even flinch. He just casually reattaches the wooden limb mid-air. It's a completely absurd play-by-play combat tactic, but it makes him incredibly difficult to actually put down. Wrapping up his profile with Section 6, a theatrical menace. So what does the existence of a sentient criminal marionette actually mean for this city? Well, Captain Tougharm views the jackal juice as a poison that's destroying their world. But Diego's perspective, it's entirely different. Quote, "Poison, this is a blessing. I used to be ignored, now I'm unforgettable." And that really hits the nail on the head. The mutation fulfilled Diego's absolute deepest desire. He finally escaped his invisible, totally mundane life selling corn and collecting rocks. He evolved into his self-proclaimed rainbow of the ancestors, and he commands attention wherever he goes. And he leaves us, and Captain Tougharm, with this final, incredibly theatrical sign-off. "The show has only just begun, hero. The whole world is my stage now." Honestly, you can't help but chuckle at the sheer madness of his new worldview. He doesn't want world domination. He has no interest in destroying the universe. He just wants to put on a show, and he views his terrifying new form as the ultimate costume. So, I'll leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up today's explainer. In a world flooded with these wildly chaotic mutations, is Diego the puppet a genuinely dangerous villain who needs to be locked away for good? Or is he just a forgotten, marginalized guy who finally found his stage, albeit in the most twisted way possible? It's a fascinating look at how power doesn't necessarily corrupt. Sometimes it just magnifies exactly who we were all along. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the archives, and stay curious.